right, thank you so much. It's 1 o'clock, so I think we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy time of year, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar. My name is Kira Taj. I'm the Senior Associate at Bessie, Tart, Wilson Initiative for Children, and here in the office with me as well is Erin Anguish, our Marketing Specialist. We're really excited to be sharing information today about the Early Educator's Roadmap to a College Degree. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that we have muted all of your lines so that you will not be able to speak to us until the second half of the webinar. We do this so that the webinar is not interrupted by outside sounds and so that you don't have to worry about making noise on your end. We encourage you to ask us questions, though, during the presentation. So to ask a question or make a comment, you can type it in the questions section on your dashboard, which is the section on the right-hand side of your computer. So please feel free to communicate to us anytime. We also want to let you know that we are recording this portion of the webinar because we're hoping to sort of post it online afterwards for people that missed the webinar. So we just wanted to let you know that. And if you are having any trouble hearing us right now or seeing the screen, you can please reach out to us by the question section. And if you feel like your computer speaker is not loud or you're not hearing us well, you can also have the option to dial in through the telephone. So you will see the telephone instructions in your email or I think on this dashboard as well. So today we're going to give you a little background on the organization Bessie Tart Wilson Initiative for Children, just briefly, and how we came to create the roadmap. We're going to walk through it online, and then we really want to open it up for questions and discussion. So Bessie Tart Wilson Initiative for Children is a nonprofit organization focused on improving the quality of early education and care in Massachusetts. We conduct grassroots research, engage a variety of collaborators, and influence policy in order to bring about change in the early education and care system. The organization is named after Bessie Tart Wilson, who you see in this picture, and was founded by Mary Reed, her daughter, who you also see, who's in the middle of the picture, right in front of her. Bessie Tart Wilson was one of the first women of color to open an early education and care business in Roxbury in Boston in the 1940s. So we get our inspiration from her. Just briefly, this is a snapshot of the work that we have focused on over the last 10 years. We began in 2006 by looking at the child care subsidy system in Massachusetts, and we focused on the voucher certification period, which at that time was up to 6 months. We were able to extend it to 1 year so that families could receive a 1-year voucher, making it easier for them and better for their children. Through that research, though, we talked with numerous providers and educators who expressed to us their challenges with compensation and the increasing demands upon them. And we learned how important the workforce issue is. So in 2009, we started conducting more grassroots research with educators and providers to find out more. We found that many educators have student loan debt and that low wages and families of their own made it hard for them to return to school to get an associate's or bachelor's degree. We also found that many educators needed more information on how to approach higher education, how to apply, and how to find the right program for them. So we created the roadmap. It's meant to be a centralized resource for educators. It pulls together links to online resources related to higher education and moves the user through a roadmap of steps to consider. So it's meant to provide educators with easily understandable information about the higher education system. So it's an online website that individuals can access from any computer. We are not affiliated with any particular higher education institution or anything. We simply felt the need to centralize resources for the field. And just here I want to emphasize that we know that simply obtaining a degree does not make for a high quality educator. Many people in our field have years of experience and specialized skills in early childhood, even if they do not have a degree. So obtaining a degree should not be the only single most important destination for all educators in our system. However, we do know the current reality that educators are feeling the pressure to obtain more education, and the QRAS, as well as other standards, do value degrees. So we thought it was important to compile information about higher education for that reason, to help educators gather information and decide for themselves. So we're going to pause here and take a little poll. We want to put up a question for you. So just give us a minute. We want to know how many people have actually seen the roadmap. So please tell us if you have visited the roadmap online or not. And this is our first time doing this poll function in this webinar. So it looks like it's working well, which is great. So we'll just wait one more minute. Thank you for sharing that with us. Great. So it looks like a little over half have already seen the roadmap and a little under half have not. So I'll try not to spend too much time going through it when we go online. Before that, we also have another question for you. We just want to know, please share with us what your role is. If you're an educator or a coach or an administrator, please let us know at this time. Great. Okay, so we have a good number of people who would describe, a lot of what they do as career coaching, and some program directors and also some providers and educators. That's great. Great. So just one more piece of sort of background for you before we walk through. There's just one more slide I just want to share. We began creating the roadmap in 2011. We convened an advisory group of providers, educators, career coaches, and individuals from higher education. We used the collective knowledge of the group as well as our own research to create the content and select the links that should be included. So the first version of the roadmap was launched in 2012. Since then, we've shared the roadmap with over 16,000 individuals, and many colleges and other agencies include a link to the roadmap on their web pages. We're also able to translate the roadmap into 4 additional languages, which is important, as you know, given the diversity of our field. And so we're going to now walk you through just online the roadmap and sort of some of the newer features as well that we have put in place. So this shows you the entrance page for people that haven't seen this. We wanted to collect some quick information from users. So we want to know language, if they're using it for themselves or with others, and their level of education. So these are sort of just some data points that we wanted to try to get. You can exit out of it. You don't have to fill it out. We didn't want it to be a barrier for people to go there, but we also are collecting that information because we want to follow up with a survey later, which I'll tell you about. So here's the entry page with the 5 languages, and today we're going to just walk through the English one. So you will I know some of you have seen this before, but this is the title, page. If you scroll down, it gives you some background information on degrees, and we also include a link to the career ladder, which is something that we worked on with the Department of Early Education and Care and the PQ registry. There's also a printable version of the roadmap, which is something that you can print. So if you want to give it to other educators or something, it shows you a snapshot of all of the steps. So there are 8 steps in the roadmap, and each step really has a few features. Each step has sort of a metaphor of the roadmap. This one is determine your starting point, and each step has a section of what to consider and helpful hints. So for example, this is helping people think about, how much time do you really have? How will it fit your schedule? Is this the right time to think about doing this? Then it has a section, every section has some links. So you can click on these links. This one, for example, is a website, College for Adults. So it's a variety of information on applying to college, the financial pieces that you need to know, but it's customized specifically for individuals that are adults, not the typical high school student or younger person that hasn't had a career yet. So it's something that we thought important to include. And so if you go down, for example, step 2 really emphasizes connecting with supports. And here's where we really try to connect people with the educator and provider support network, which is what the Department of Early Education and Care has across the state to assist early educators in professional development, for those of you who aren't familiar with EPS. So we have a link there because we really know that that's a central place. This is the EEC website that takes people to the contacts. And for educators listening, we really encourage you to connect with your EPS contact if you have not already. So their contact information is here. And that's under the second link, educator and provider support grantees. There's a video that we link to. Step 3 is choosing the right institution. We have information about the Early Childhood Educator Scholarship Fund, which is really important to helping people go back to school. And so the eligibility information and all the contact information is here. So that's a very important resource. We have applying for admission. Step 5 is completing the FAFSA and other financial information, which, as we know, is a huge challenge sometimes, and especially, the FAFSA, to understand and to sort of go through the steps to do that. Step 6 is looking at your financial aid letter and talking with your advisor. Accessing supports at school is step 7, and step 8, which is you made it. So we also link to the end here to some of our resources on student loans. We did a lot of work back in 2011 with educators wanting to know more about how to manage their current student loans. And so we link to our resources there. And then we have a final story, and that is really the roadmap webpage. So what I think we will do now is open it up for discussion. We would like to really begin with questions and comments, and then we'll move on to feedback. We really do want to get some feedback from you. So let's start with the first part, which is questions on the roadmap itself, how we created it, any sort of questions that you might have. We're going to unmute your lines so that you can try to speak to us, as well as type in a comment in the questions box. So just give us a minute. We're going to try to unmute you. I don't think you're okay. So does anyone have any questions?
We're still our name, but we're under the policy. We're not policy analysts, but we're under policy.
So I'm not sure if the unmuting is working, guys. So if you have a question, can you please type it in to the questions section? That would be great. Sorry about that. We'll just wait a minute. Please send any questions or comments. So one of the questions that we just got is, how do you explain the difference between going for a terminal degree in public school teaching or teaching in early education and care? So that's something that we do not address directly on the roadmap. Our assumption is that that educators want to stay in the field of early education and care, and I think that's something that we encourage people to talk to their career coaches on. So we have one of those earlier steps, which is really connect with an advisor, connect with a coach. And I'll emphasize here, I'm the first to say we are not career coaches ourselves. We are advocates, researchers. We've worked with early education leaders and educators for over 10 years now, but that's not what we do. And that's why we refer people to EPS and to other career coaches to help them make that decision. So I hope that helps answer your question. Another question that we are getting is there a place I can go to get someone to help finish the paperwork or start the scholarship? That's a question that I don't know. I think if you're speaking about the early educator scholarship, I'm pretty sure that the EPS network of contacts is familiar with that process and could perhaps give you some help with that. But I don't know if anyone from the EPS regions are on who have any input on that question as well. Are there any other comments? So just on that point, someone asking about the paperwork, someone responded to say EPS can help with career counseling, but can also refer to college advisors when appropriate. And EPS can help with the scholarship, as can many financial aid advisors at the colleges with the EEC scholarship application. And I think we should just check one more time. Erin is here with me on this webinar. I just want to see if we can unmute people so we can have a discussion. For some reason, it's not, doesn't seem to be working. Okay, great. So what we're doing is trying to unmute those that we can. If you have muted yourself, we may not be able to on our end. But could everyone, I don't know, say hello or something and see if we can hear you?
Hello?
Hello, great. Yes, thank you. We can hear some of you. We really, it's nice to connect people and to be able to hear from you, especially those of you from EPS and other places that can help answer some of these questions. So let's go back to a few of the other questions that we had. One is, how many EEC scholarships are offered each year? I don't know off the top of my head. I can look that up for someone, but the other question we have is, I have sent in the paperwork to EEC but never got an answer. Do you get information or feedback from anyone? So I would just again emphasize that we ourselves don't help manage the scholarship process, and we're not career counselors ourselves. We are a nonprofit research organization that helped compile this online website, but we really encourage you to call really probably your EPS contacts, the ones that I showed you from step 2 of the roadmap, and or EEC directly about the status of your application. And then I just have another comment about the scholarships. Someone also mentioned that the educational opportunity centers are available to assist individuals with the scholarship paperwork. And that's also something that we have on the roadmap, which I may not be able to pull up right now, but it is, I believe, Just scroll up here. These educational opportunity centers. So these are also resources for folks which help with applying to programs and doing financial aid. So I'm going to just leave that up there for a second for people that want to note that down as well. I have another comment that EEC is asking people to be patient in terms of probably, I believe, the scholarships because they just lost some staff due to people retiring. So they're doing the best they can with all the paperwork coming into the office. So one question we have is, what feedback have you gotten from educators who have used the roadmap? And the feedback, so this is a good opportunity for me to talk about the survey that we do. We don't have specific information for our users because it's an online website, so we don't have any of their contact information. That's why we have that pop up in the beginning so we can get people's emails. We email them a survey and ask a range of questions about how have they used it, what did they find helpful. We, in the survey that we did in 2013, found that over 3/4 of the survey respondents said the roadmap was helpful to them. We asked whether they had gone to enroll in the degree program after using the roadmap, and 33, I think about a third, said that they did actually go and enroll and that it did help them to make a decision one way or the other. So again, the end game is not that one size fits all for everyone. It's that did it help you make some informed choices. Are there any other questions? And feel free to speak up as well if you want to make a comment or a question, because I believe we were able to unmute lines. We have a question about how many people have visited the roadmap, and we basically track that through Google Analytics. So we can track the unique numbers of visitors through the website. Currently, it's above 2,500, I believe, since the inception of the roadmap. So those are unique visits, unique visitors to the roadmap. And our goal for dissemination is disseminating it to 20,000 people over the next year, and we want at least 20% of those to visit the roadmap. And thank you. There's a comment about some information changes on a few websites. So please do send any changes, anything you see, any updates on resources, and we'd be happy to take a look and incorporate that into the roadmap. Someone asked again, really just for us to help clarify the main purpose of the roadmap, and really the main purpose of the roadmap is to provide early educators with a centralized place that they can go to understand information about how to navigate the higher education system. So it's really meant to be that central place that pulls in, because there are many resources, many places you can go for help, but this is meant to be a one-stop shop for you, so you can go read through the information and get a pretty good sense of some of the resources that are out there and how to sort of think about whether going back to school is right for you. Are there any other questions? You feel free to please, keep sending us your questions. I just want to take a moment to get some other feedback from you and some discussion. I would welcome any feedback from people that have used it in their work, that have used it for their individual use, Does anyone have any feedback or thoughts from that perspective? Any feedback for us? It'd be great if someone that has used it could speak to how they use it or how they've found using it. Anybody? Okay, great. So I think we have one more question. Can you walk us through the roadmap, highlighting areas visitors found helpful or confusing? So that's one thing that we don't have a really good sense of. We have, like I was explaining, the survey that we do. So we ask whether or not the roadmap overall was helpful, and we ask for feedback and comments, but we haven't gotten specific feedback on certain sections versus other sections. Are there any other questions, thoughts? We wanted to also mention that we have individual postcards available. So if you're an educator that works in a program or an administrator who would like to share those postcards with colleagues or other educators, we're happy to send them to you. You can reach out to us via the email that you received about the webinar. Just reply back and let us know that you would like some postcards. And then I also just want to encourage you, if you visit that roadmap and you see that pop up asking you for information in your email, to please give us your email. We'd love to send you a survey on the roadmap. And in fact, I think we'll send it to you, those of you who are on the webinar. For those of you who have used and seen the roadmap, we'd love your feedback through that survey because we're really trying to get a sense of what people are thinking. Great. So there is one comment of someone wanting more help in sort of walking through the roadmap. We're happy to do that with you on the phone. Maybe that's the best, so we can walk you through individually and see what your questions are. So if you could type your email into the questions box or your telephone number, we'll be happy to follow up with you. Great. Any other questions? We're going to close this out. Again, we really thank you for being on the webinar. We are happy to answer questions or talk with you at any point about this. We really want this website to be something that's helpful for everyone, and we are always thinking about how to improve it and how to reach more people with it. So please let us know, and we really appreciate it. We will email you our e-newsletter. We'll add you to our monthly e-newsletter. You can always unsubscribe, or you can let us know in the questions box that you don't want to receive it. But we'd love to keep in touch, and thank you very much. Thank you.